to adjust if you think. And Makari. Narayan. Name Om Stapakaya Chidharmasya Sarvadharma Sarupine Avatara Varishtaya Ramakrishnayate Namaha Om Mangalam Gurudevaya Devye Matriksha Mangalam Mangalam Bhakta Brindebhyo Sarva Lokaya Mangalam Om Sarashiva Samarambam Shankarachara Madhyamam Ashmarachara Prayantam Vande Gurum Paramparam Om Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Devo Maheshwaraha Gurureva Param Brahman Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Joy Ma. They're growing up so nice, huh? The little one is so cute. So we're continuing from our reading of Swami Vivekananda's lectures on Bhakti Yoga, part of his classic, The Four Yogas. And the version that I'm reading it from is Vivekananda, The Yoga and Other Works, a slightly different edition than what's in the complete works, ever so slightly, some editorial changes, adjustments. And so last, I guess 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, we were sick, so we skipped a few weeks. We read the preparatory renunciation, the renunciation that a devotee goes through to prepare for Parabhakti. And so we'll continue to the section is the Bhaktas, or the devotees' renunciation results from love. See, this is yes, the title itself is perfect. You almost don't have to read anything. This section is especially beautiful, I think. But you almost don't have to read anything else. Because there's many reasons for renunciation. Some is something's horrible and you give it up. Or you think something's horrible and you give it up. Right? Or something's not good for you and you give it up. Right? Or somebody tells you it's not good for you. You give it and guilts you into giving it up or whatever. There's all kinds of reason to give things or to try to give things up. But the very act of trying to give something up is automatically a little artificial. Right? It's to push anything away. It's just kind of a strange thing. It's a aggressive. It can be an aggressive act. Some in that Hanuman Prasad Padar's Bhakti Narada Bhakti Sutra is one of my favorite examples he gives. It's a masterpiece commentary on Bhakti Sutra. He says that swimming is pushing water away. So he's trying to say there's a different way of looking at renunciation. The very act of swimming is the art of renouncing water. Right? And if you don't renounce water and you go into a pool, you'll drown and die. Right? And if you know the art of pushing water away, then every pool can be, rather than dangerous, can be enjoyable. Right? You can swim, push. It's like it's a way of. So it's another way of thinking about renunciation also that he gives. I think about that quite a bit. The art of pushing the world away is a way to move through the world beautifully, without drowning in it. And you actually look forward to swimming. Anyway, let's see what Swamiji says. We see love everywhere in nature. Whatever in society is good and great and sublime is the working out of that love. Whatever in society is very bad, nay, diabolical. Anybody know what he's going to say here? Let's trick everybody. Whatever you see that's great is a working out of that love. Everything you see is diabolical is also the working out of that love. That's a very interesting thing, right? He says, Whatever in society is good and great and sublime is a working out of that love. Whatever in society is very bad, nay, diabolical, is also the ill-directed working out of the same emotion of love. It is the same emotion that gives us not only the pure and holy conjugal love between husband and wife, but also the sort of love which goes to satisfy the lowest forms of animal passion. The emotion is the same, but its manifestation is different in different cases. It is the same feeling of love, well or ill-directed, that impels one man to do good and to give all he has to the poor, and makes another man cut the throats of his brethren and take away all their possessions. The former loves others as much as the latter loves himself. The direction of this love is bad in the latter case, but is right and proper in the other. The same fire that cooks a meal for us may burn a child, and is no fault of the fire if it does so. The difference lies in the way in which it is used. Therefore, love, the intense longing for association, the strong desire on the part of two to become one, and it may be after all, of all to become merged in one, is being manifested everywhere in higher or lower forms, as the case may be. So this is an interesting definition. His definition of love is the desire, the reflection's a little bit strong. Let's see if I can. This is a glossy page. Let me find it here. Therefore, the intense longing for association, the strong desire on the part of the two to become one. That's his definition of love. For some, it's directed outward, and some directed inward. One who loves others, one who loves themselves. So we would in regular language say one's love and the other is not love. We make a very big distinction between these two. Okay? And Swamiji will also, they're not the same, but in one sense they're the same. Right? We want, remember there was a very bad song, I think I've quoted it before, many of you grew up with it. And it was looking for love in all the wrong places. A few of the younger ones aren't laughing, you don't know the song. But we all know, we all grew up with the song. Right, in so many faces, right? So it's even the selfish type of love is we're even some people in other places, maybe even here, maybe haven't looked ahead. The thief is also just trying to find union, trying to satisfy something, trying to satisfy an emptiness, trying to the murderer, the drunkard, everyone is trying to get the hit of union, right? But you can see in certain ways it's looking in the wrong place. It's doomed to fail, right? It's selfish, trying to satisfy love in a completely one-sided, selfish, hurtful way. People doing that, that's called life. That we see in politics, we see that in romance, we see that in everything, in business. And it's a mess. It doesn't work, right? So this is, but we have to, Swamiji is trying to base this whole principle of renunciation through love to understand that the basis of even selfish behavior is a desire for love, a search for love. Right? Bhakti Yoga is a science of the higher love. This is the higher love and lower love, selfish love and selfless love. So this is the science of the higher love, of the selfless love. That's called Bhakti Yoga. Right. The other love we see everywhere. We're all struggling. The science of the lower love, we can see it's called politics, diplomacy, advertising. What's that? Mediation. All this happens. It's all this, and romance and all the things. These are regular life. All the details, the ugly and the sublime aspects of regular life. That these are the science of the lower love, right? But those understanding that the workings, that we can understand that there must be also a science, a principle, a guided, the saints who've realized the highest love, they've given us some principle, some evidence, some way. Bhakti Yoga is a science of the higher love. It shows us how to direct it. It shows us how to control it, how to manage it, how to use it, how to give it a new aim, as it were, and from it obtain the highest and most glorious result, that is, how to make it lead us to spiritual blessedness. Sri Ramakrishna also, in several places, he says, if you have some lower manifestation of love, right? Give it a higher, make God the focus of it. How to direct it towards God, right? If you're going to be angry at not realizing God, or if you're going to be lustful, want God. If you're going to be jealous, want only God for only yourself. All these will be considered ugly emotions, right? Make God the focus. Somehow or another direct the attention, because actually the perfection of each one of those desires is God, and we see in the Narada Bhakti Sutra, Narada Muni, he constantly invokes the gopis of Raj as the examples of each one of these. You want to see jealousy. There's very few emotions in the human behavior as ugly as jealousy. It spoils everything, right? Yet we see one gopi jealous of another gopi, right? And for thousands of years, that their story is told as in glorifying them, not like just see even the gopis fell to the lower emotion of jealousy, the perfection of jealousy, right? That was their meditation. That was their all-absorbing meditation, right? Or the of anger, we only have the problem with American aesthetics. We have three emotions, but in the Puranic system, in the Bhakti Yoga system, there's many bhavas. there's jealousy with a fear of being rejected, but still controlling. There's all these unique type of, we don't even know what those emotions are, but they're all given names and beautifully elaborated. But how to take our seeming regular emotions, our desire for love, and direct them in such a way that they lead not to just repeated birth and death and conscious separation for God, frantically searching for satisfaction, but in a way that actually leads to satisfaction, to spiritual blessedness. Bhakti Yoga does not say, give up. It only says, love the highest. And everything low naturally falls away from him, the object of whose love is the highest. Last time we gave the example of the higher. We gave that the verses from the Gita of the higher taste, we talked about the book The Higher Taste on vegetarian cookbook, based on that principle that if you have something higher, the lower drops away, right? But maybe I didn't actually mention the verse in the Gita. That line comes from the verse in the Gita. Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. But it says actually that the yogi can restrain his mind from the object of the senses. Of course, the yogi should. That's the first thing we do. Pratyahara is very early on the steps of yoga, right? Of any type of meditation system. We begin to try to control the mind from the object of senses. He says, but the taste for them remains. And you can see, you can give up cakes like, can I say it in front of Mom? Maybe if I were to give up coffee for a day, or chocolate or something horrible, something like that, I could do it. Some discipline. I have some acid problem or some problem, so time to time we give up because of some acid. But the taste for them, every smell, the habit, you get up and go over to the stove, like grab the herbal tea box or something. It's like the samskar is still there, the vritti is still there, the desire is still there, right? So that's a great line. That's a perfect in the Gita. Perfect. We control the mind from the senses, yet the desire remains. He said, but if one experiences a higher taste, right, then one becomes fixed. I may get a couple of verses mixed. I don't have it in front of me, but one becomes fixed in knowledge or fixed in wisdom, like this, right? One is said to be fixed in wisdom. If you love the highest, the lower automatically falls away. Therefore, rather than say renounce, Swamiji says, the Bhakti Yoga says love. If you love God, all the lower things automatically fall apart. The Bhakti Yoga does not say give up. It only says love the highest. And everything low naturally falls away from him, the object whose love is the highest. I cannot tell anything about this is like a example of a prayer. I cannot tell anything about thee except that thou art my love, the devotee says to God. Thou art beautiful, oh, thou art beautiful. Thou art beauty itself. What is really required of us in this yoga is that our thirst after the beautiful should be directed to God. What is the beauty of the human face, the sky and the stars, and in the moon? So we want beauty. We want beauty. This is of course, who doesn't want to see the beautiful, hear the beautiful, think the beautiful, experience the beautiful, right? And that beautiful verse that Swamiji is quoting from the scriptures, it says that, but God is the most, not only the most beautiful, right? It's just, he, she, it is beauty, right? I remember I made this very, I remember this scene many years ago in Laguna Beach Hare Krishna temple. It was one sannyasi, Jayadvaita Swami. He's a senior Soma Prabhupada disciple sannyasi. Was giving a talk, and he's a very expert speaker, and he's very good. He's an impressive speaker. At least at that time when I saw him, I've never seen. He was very expert at composing a lecture and like this, and all the parts. But the Hare Krishna temple is 30 feet from the ocean. It's at the beach, right? And it's on a Sunday, so beach people come in. People come in beach clothes or beach lack of clothes that you come from the beach, right? And it was a big crowd, and a very beautiful, by worldly standards, but standard of the world, very beautiful, not very overly dressed girl came in and sat down like this. And you could see everyone's attention went, and you could see if I was somebody like you could see he probably saw the person walk in and see something like, and he also sees everybody's like no longer paying attention to his lecture, right? And so you could see him without breaking, that's his expertise, without breaking the rhythm of his talk, or seemingly of his talk. He says, and therefore we know that in this world there's so many beautiful things and so many beautiful people, and there's some very, very, like for an example, so many very beautiful women, right? And so everybody got caught, right? Because everybody's attention, men and women, were all paying attention to the very beautiful woman that came in, right? And he says, just think that the source of all such beautiful, countless, unlimited beautiful women, men and women, how beautiful Krishna must be, right? And then he had everybody's attention back, right? Think like the desire to see beautiful. It's like, sure, there's very beautiful, but the source of that beauty, the one who created unlimited beautiful worlds and beautiful things, how beautiful God must be, right? I remember everyone's attention went back. This is 30 years ago. This I remembered in my mind. It was very interesting to watch the whole thing. Okay. What is really required of us in this yoga is that our thirst after the beautiful should be directed towards God. What is the beauty in the human face, in the sky, and the stars, and the moon? It is only the partial manifestation of the real, all-embracing divine beauty. And he quotes from the Upanishads, He shining, everything shines. It is through His light that all things shine. Take this high position of bhakti, which makes you forget at once your little personalities. Take yourself away from all the world's little selfish clingings. Do not look upon humanity as the center of all your human or higher interests. Stand as a witness and observe and study the phenomenon of nature. Have the feeling of non-attachment with regard to man, and see how this mighty feeling of love is working itself out in this world. Actually, this is the thing, if you try to control a little bit and you begin with detachment and look, you get to see you only see people searching for love, people searching for beauty, right? So if you a little bit of attachment, because the problem is we get attached and we lose it. If you a little bit control, a little disinterest, and you watch everything, this is what you're seeing. Sometimes a little friction is produced. Sometimes there is a little fight or a little fall, but it is have the feeling of non-attachment with regard to man, and see how the mighty feeling of love is working itself out in the world. Sometimes a little friction is produced, but that is only in the course of the struggle to attain the higher real love. Sometimes there is a little fight or a little fall, but it is only by the way. Stand aside and freely let the frictions come. You feel the frictions only when you are in the current of the world. But when you are outside of it, simply as a witness and as a student, we will be able to see that there are millions and millions of channels through which God is manifesting Himself as love. Swami Ramatirtha, that wonderful, maybe most people maybe know who Swami Ramatirtha is. a great Vedantic sannyasi who came to this country very early on, maybe 1903, 1904, or something like that, after Swamiji. Very powerful orator and writer and speaker, brilliant. But in one of his talks, it's called The Secret of Success, he talks about principle of love. If we look everywhere, we see actually everything is only working on this principle of renunciation and love, right? He says even, like, what he gives the example of a flower. You see a flower, right? You say, when do you see, what's the beauty of the flower, right? So look how beautiful the yellow flower is, right? But yellow is not yellow. It's the way color works. It absorbs all colors in the light and reflects and reflects back, doesn't keep the color that you see. Right, so even the beauty of a yellow flower, a red flower, it's the color that the flower doesn't keep for itself. Right, so all beauty comes from renunciation also. Right, it's a very interesting principle. If you stand back and begin to see, everything that we appreciate is the thing that the thing doesn't keep for itself. Right, even beauty is based upon renunciation. Right, very interesting. You have to take a step back and not be too involved, and you get to see it. And even if you are involved and you get, as Swamiji said, the fight and friction, still temporary. Wherever there is any bliss, even though it is the most sensual kind, there is a spark of that eternal bliss, which is the Lord Himself. Right. This is actually in quotation. I don't know who he's quoting, but this is I think it's in the quotation. Is that also? Mm-hmm. Quotation. maybe it's from the Narada Bhakti Sutta. I don't remember this verse. A lot of the Bhakti Yoga is summary and re-speaking of the Bhakti Sutta. That's why I'm assuming sometimes he's pulling from it. But wherever there is any bliss, even though it is the most sensual kind, there is but a spark of the eternal bliss, which is the Lord Himself. Actually, that's the thing, is that Swami Lakshmanji talks about this also, that if we read that any experience, any taste, any hit, any joy, right? Where is it coming from, right? You say it's like you eat a piece of chocolate. You say, the chocolate brought me joy. The chocolate's nothing, right? Other people look at it and don't get any joy, right? You test it. There's something. It's an occasion for the bliss which is already there, looking for that union to manifest itself, right? So even sensual joy, that is only a drop of that bliss. And Swami Lakshmanji himself says that God is the realization of the self of God. He calls it super sensuous joy, super sexual joy, right? Because we talked last time about the experience of union in different chakras. Remember we talked about the Muladhara, the worldly plane, to the highest. You can't imagine. Each plane is considered 1,000 times more liberated, right? So the experiences are going to be thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of times greater, right? But the experience of union is still there, even at the lowest, most condensed, most tight level. Wherever there is any bliss, even though it is the highest, is the most sensual kind, there is a spark of that eternal bliss, which is the Lord Himself. Even the lowest kind of attraction, there is a germ of divine love. Only one of the names of the Lord in Sanskrit is Hari, which means He who attracts all things to Himself. His is in fact the only attraction felt by the human heart. He's the only. So He's the only one who attracts, and He's the only one that we can be attracted by, because that's who we're looking for. That's what we want. Who can really attract the soul? Only He. Do you think dead matter can truly attract the soul? It never did and never will. When you see a man going after a beautiful face, do you think it is a handful of arranged material molecules which really attracts a man? No, not at all. Behind those material particles, there must be and is the play of divine influence and divine love. The ignorant man does not know it, but yet, consciously or unconsciously, he is attracted by it, and it alone. So even the lowest form of attractions derive their power from God Himself. None, O beloved, and this is from the what Upanishad is it famous from? The conversation between Maitreya and thank you, Briharanyaka Upanishad. Karma is a very famous. This is a refrain of this section, which everybody should know. That Maitreya, right, and Yagyavvalkya, right?
Katyayani is the other wife.
Yes. That's right. So before he renounced the world, he had two wives, and who shall inherit how to distribute his wealth before the husband, the rishi, was about to leave. And Katyayani took the legitimate share of the property, and his other wife became a rishi. Of course, they're rishis. They're both of the wives are rishis of sorts. But she asked the question: is like, will these things bring me pleasure? What brings me pleasure? And he says, actually, it's only the self brings you pleasure. And the refrain is that it's not for the sake of food that food is dear. It's because the sake of the self. I may be missing, but they're all just like that. It's not for the sake of the wife that the wife is dear. It's for the sake of the self. It's not for the sake of the husband is dear, for the sake of the self. It's not for the sake of the world is dear, for the sake of the self. It's not for the sake of the body that the body is dear, but for the sake of the self. Right? So actually all we really want is the self. That's what we're really attracted to. Right? And so she says, I'll take self-knowledge, and my co-wife will take. And anyway, so this is also very deeply symbolic of the two wives, and they have names and like that. But we won't go into that. It's a different topic. But Swamiji quotes from that. None, O beloved, ever loves the husband for the husband's sake. It is the Atman, the Lord who is within, for whose sake the husband is loved. That's just Swamiji's early translation. Maybe the first translation of this verse in English, perhaps. O beloved, none, O beloved, ever loves the wife for the wife's sake, but for the sake of the self, that the wife is loved. Similarly, no one loves a child or anything else in this world except on account of him who is within. The Lord is the great magnet, and we are like iron filings. We are being constantly attracted by him, and all of us are struggling to reach him. All the struggling of ours in this world is surely not intended for selfish ends. Even our selfish struggles, the real intention is not selfish. We want the self. Of course, that's desire for the self is not selfish. Anyway, even the words. Yes, the Atman and the self. We'll use the Atman. The desire for the Atman or desire for God is not selfish. Small s. There's our language restrictions. All the struggle of ours in this world is surely not intended for selfish ends. Fools do not know what they are doing. The goal of their life is, after all, to approach. Fools do not know what they are doing. The goal of their life is, after all, to approach the great magnet. So Sri Ramakrishna said this again and again. He says the goal of life is to realize God. Right? That's the goal. It's not just like, eventually we'll finish the things we think are important, and we try to realize God. Actually, in all the things we're doing, we're actually trying to realize God. Right, so that's the only goal of life. No matter what we're doing, the goal of everything we're doing is to realize God. And then he said something quite devastating. He said, and if you don't realize God, then you've wasted a human birth, because the goal of this human birth is to realize God. It's a problem we try through lower ways, improper ways, looking for love in all the wrong places, perhaps, and we don't make it. Right, and so Sri Ramakrishna, that final God is real, God can be known. The purpose of life is to know Him. Right. These are great. That's a very nice. These are nice principles of religion. But then the fourth, these are not devastating. The devastating one, if you don't realize them, then you've wasted your life. Right. Of course, we can say, we are experimenting to next. In next life we'll try again. It's okay, but that's not helpful. The guru is supposed to Nanda 50. Purpose of life is don't waste this life. All the tremendous struggling and fighting in life is intended to make us ultimately go to Him and to be one with Him. The Bhakti Yogi, however, knows the meaning of life's struggle. He understands it. He has passed through a long series of these struggles and knows what they mean, and earnestly desires to be free from the friction thereof. He wants to avoid the clash and go direct to the center of all attraction, the great Hari. This is renunciation of the Bhaktas. Be free of the friction. He wants to avoid the clash and go direct to the center of attraction, Hari. This mighty attraction in the direction of God makes all other attractions vanish for him. This mighty, infinite love of God, which enters his heart, leaves no place for any other love to live there. How can it be otherwise? Bhakti fills his heart with divine waters of the ocean of love, which is God himself. There is no place there for little loves. That is to say, the Bhakta's renunciation is that vairagya, or non-attachment, for all things that are not God, which results from anuraga, or great attachment to God. Now, of course, we can take a Vedantic thing that everything is God and there's nothing that's not God, that's separated from God. That's nice philosophical. These are true things and are good, healthy things to remember. But this is vairagya, the results from anuraga. These are used in the time. These are very classic Bhakti Yoga terms. Anuraga means extreme attachment, right? When you have extreme attachment to one thing, you're willing to. You see, to use a very gross and ugly example of modern time, there's a great epidemic of opioids right now, and people are ODing like this, right? Like what people won't do to get the experience, they have a tremendous anuraga for that experience. That's the problem. It's probably of course, in the beginning, it's a very high experience. Later, just to live that to bare minimum experience, people are willing to do anything because the pain of losing it is so great. But in order to get this experience, what people won't give up, they give up their law, they give up their families, they give up their. How much you can see that they're willing to give up anything. Right, not willing. They give up everything because it's not like, I'm willing. I have to think. I have to give. Am I willing to give this up in order to attain? No, the anuraga is so great. It may be chemically. This is like a perverted example of it, right? But in the spiritual realm, it's just like that, right? In Narada Bhakti Sutra, so one of the definition of bhakti is extreme attachment to God, and extreme pain at not being of thinking of any other thought. Right, it's one of these attachment. This maybe the same word is used. This anuraga, extreme attachment to God, and extreme agony at forgetting Him. Right, so it's not even like, I have to slowly, withdraw my senses. And there's a good yogi, right? Try to be a little detached from things that aren't that good for me. Control my diet. All these things somebody's talked about. These are all set up. Right, all the things that we've talked about. Actually, somebody's saying none of these things matter. Once you have attachment to God, these things fall apart altogether. Right, when you're running towards, and again, the example of the gopis are given in the Narada Bhakti Sutra. He always says, example is the gopis of Raj. In the story, we have to be careful not to mundanely interpret the story, but in the story, when they hear Krishna's flute call, right, on the Rasa, on Kartik Purnima, on that full moon night, right, they drop whatever they're doing and run. Some of them were nursing children. They drop their children where they are and run. Some of them are with their husband. They leave their husband and run. Right, now that could be in a normal world. This would be a very condemnable behavior. Right, it's like against their children. One thing, if they fell in love with another man, they get rid of their husband. But to get against, we shouldn't assume it's a normal event, right? And maybe it's a symbolic of something. We have to be careful not to overly give a symbolic interpretation. But whatever, symbolic or actual, right? The call of the attachment to Krishna was so great at that moment that all the things that are the most important things, actually, they're dharmic things, as wives, as daughters, as sisters, as mothers. Right, just dropped behind and they just ran. That's the vairagya that comes from anuraga. That Swamiji is saying. So actually, Swamiji is always very careful when he talks about this level of devotion and the Bhagavad, the thing, and this Bhakti tradition. But you see, he set it up over, of course, I can't say over months, over an hour at least, probably when his original talk, right? but he set it up very carefully to introduce this idea, to understand this idea. Let me find it again. I'll read the section again. This mighty attraction in the direction of God makes all other attractions vanish for him. This mighty infinite love of God, which enters his heart, leaves no place for any other love to live there. How can it be otherwise? Bhakti fills his heart with the divine waters of the ocean of love, which is God himself. There is no place there for little loves. That is to say, the Bhakti's renunciation is the vairagya, or non-attachment, for all things that are not God, which results from anuraga, the great attachment to God. This is the ideal preparation for the attainment of supreme bhakti. So this is the preparation for parabhakti. Right? So you can think, so we think this is parabhakti. This is not parabhakti. This is preparation for parabhakti. We can't even, so when this renunciation comes, when such renunciation comes, the renunciation that comes from extreme attachment to God, right? When this renunciation comes, the gate opens for the soul to pass through and reach the lofty regions of supreme bhakti, supreme devotion, para bhakti, or para bhakti. Right? Swami himself gives it. Then it is that we begin to understand what para bhakti is. So that's an interesting. So we talk about, that's my job. We're reading these things and talking about para bhakti. But actually, even the right Swamiji says, until you have this type of devotion, right? Until you have such attachment to God that everything else is forgotten, right? That type of passionate, overwhelming, single-minded devotion to God and excruciating pain at not having that union, right? Even to talk about parabhakti is illegitimate, right? Only such people can even discuss. And you can see there's so many scenes we see where great saints are talking amongst themselves, and the conversation is getting more and more intense, right? A very famous one is a conversation between Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Ramananda Roy, right? Where because of their experience, their mutual experiences, they could talk about things that we read about it. We could only guess what they're talking about. We could know they give examples and the text tries to fill it in. But you realize within the conversation goes many steps into extremely high levels of devotion, right? And after 2 or 3, we can only guess what's being meant because we don't have the experience that they have, But there's hope. Even hearing about the experience awakens something, right? That's why we read this section again and again. Why we read Swamiji's description again and again. When this renunciation comes, the gate opens for the soul to pass through and reach the lofty region of supreme devotion of parabhakti. Then it is that we begin to understand what parabhakti is. And the man who has entered into that inner shrine of parabhakti alone has the right to say that all forms and symbols are useless to him as aids to religious realization. So very often we say, we all these pujas and mantras and deities and pilgrimages and kirtan and books and saints, we have to go beyond this, right? And when people say they have to go beyond this, they're saying the truth, right? But they're not beyond it yet, right? Right? We, in our little sub-community, we have a situation where somebody made a statement, we won't mention names, to make the temple slightly less pure. We had some struggle with this person many years ago, right? But he made a comment that this puja stuff and bhajan, kirtan, puja, japa, the sadhana world, it's actually a lower stage, right? And so that's true, right? But it's a stage that, for sure, that person hadn't gone through yet, right? So it's a stage, so we have to be a little bit, it's true, but we haven't gone to that stage yet, right? When we've gone past that stage, we can say, and so I'm just saying, when we've reached this level, right, we're out of our extreme, passionate, overwhelming devotion to God, everything else becomes insipid in the way and just meaningless. Right? Then we can say these things we've gone beyond, they're no longer necessary. They've served their purpose. Until then, to do that would be foolish, to claim that we're beyond the stage we haven't gone through. Right? Then you'll never get to the next stage if you haven't gone through that. Right? So it's a very and sometimes, and we have to be careful. We think, oh, this is a stage, this is a lower stage, right? We have to be very careful with this idea, because that's another very subtle, maybe not so subtle form of spiritual egotism. I'm above.
Well, I haven't gotten above that.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
to me,
Uh-huh.
it would be, everything would be God.
Yes,
So
yes.
doing those activities
Yes, yes.
would be absorbed in,
Yes, yes.
absorbed in God.
Yeah,
Wouldn't
but
go
but
higher.
no, exactly. But some people, there's some there's saints that they sit there, they sit there just in rapturous communion with God, and they're not doing their japa anymore, right? They're not visiting the temple anymore, but their guru said to do japa every day, a certain amount of mantras. And now they're not doing it. So have they fallen from their guru, or if they've reached the goal, they've gone beyond it, And some people, and then those who've gone beyond, if you could say this term, the problem is to use this language, but we have to use that idea, who've gone beyond, very often the scriptures even say, some of them still engage in the sadhanas of the sadhana bhakti, right? And they do that for the good of others, as in examples, right? So you see, like the president, a small example, the president of the Ramakrishna Order. I don't know his state of consciousness, but he's a very great soul, right? And there have been many, many very great souls. And every single morning, although they probably don't need to, right? And it's also really painful to do so. I mean, the last 3 presidents have been almost bedridden and crippled, right? Extreme difficulty. Every single day, they get up early in the morning and they get almost wheeled to the car, and they get driven. It's from their room to the temple is only like 100 yards, but they have to be driven because walking there is impossible, right? Great, but they go and they either walk up the steps or be carried up the steps. They're like, but whether or not they need to do that, or from their room they can just do this and say Jai Thakur, it's sufficient, right? But there's 700 monks every morning watching them do this, right? And that gives them how much faith it gives that they should every day go to the shrine, do their japa in front of Thakur, right? Attend the arati. The senior monks, they're doing this. Maybe they don't need to, even if they need to or not need to, they almost can't, right? But they still do for the good of, as an example, they're acharyas. Acharya is somebody who teaches by example, right? There's others who don't, they teach, their example is not to go, right? To show that there has to be some people that the shrine is no longer important, the shrine's in their heart. They don't, Swami Prabhupada, Swami Chaitanya tells a story. No, Swami Saprakashananda in St. Louis, his predecessor, every day for 80 years, he went to the shrine and did his morning japa and evening japa, right? And then pretty soon he can't walk anymore, right? And so he told his successor, his assistant at that time, Swami Chaitanya, says, "What am I going to do? I can't go to the shrine now." He says, "Swamiji, you've gone to the shrine enough, right? You don't need to go to the shrine anymore." But his habit was so strong. As I think somebody is by habit or by example. He says, sit in your bed, you're fine. You can chant your japa or not chant your japa. He's advanced to that level. But the danger here is that we start thinking, I'm automatically beyond this. And I brought up that person who I didn't want to bring up, but we brought up, because he represents a particular attitude, right? That seeped into the Westerners who have taken up Vedanta and Bhakti Yoga and yoga in general, is that they're starting beyond this, right? I don't need names, I don't need forms, I don't need sadhana. I'm already beyond, we're the pathless path, we're starting way beyond it, right? Where does that come from? It's a lower state that they must have gone through in their past life. Otherwise, how could they be born in the West, right? So if you think about there's a particular attitude of that, right? And I believe I've studied this a lot and argued with it a lot. This is a real issue for me, right? Because I've been confronted with it a lot, right? In certain communities, like we know, and I think it's like just because I have to almost say it, being born in a Western body, in a white body, in a Western culture. Right, we're automatically above and beyond what the primitive people that's still ringing bells and bloody goddesses and this type of elephant-headed deities and this type of stuff, right? And so I think this is a very dangerous thing. We should be a little humble, right? And we're at the feet of the sages who've given these things, right? And they've until we got that. And Swamiji is basically saying that. And a lot of people claim, oh, we're following Swamiji, and that's how we're doing. No, Swamiji himself is saying you can only go beyond these things when you have that pada bhakti. The symptom of the beginning of pada bhakti, right, is full such vairagya that comes from anuraga. That's his definition. Complete renunciation of the world that comes from extreme attachment and love for God. That's the beginning. That's the gate of pada bhakti. And until you've reached that gate, then you're still on this side, right? And the principle of Bhakti Yoga, the principle of the scripture, the dharma, all these things are still in effect, right? The Swamiji is a very strong, I think, a very strong emotional point that he's making. Exactly here he says, this is very nice, I'll read this. Then it is that we begin to understand what pada bhakti is. The man who has entered into the inner shrine of pada bhakti alone has a right to say that all forms and symbols are useless and as aids to realization. He alone has attained the supreme state of love, commonly called the brotherhood of man. Even that idea, the idea that, oh, we've reached the brotherhood of man, right? Pada bhakti is the symptom. This is the symptom, one who's reached this, right? The rest only talk. This is Swamiji. He's emotionally setting it up. You have to imagine. So I'm reading it carefully and through the glare, and my glasses broke. So I'm using two prescriptions back. So I can't even. So I'm not getting his rhythm. But Swamiji by this point, probably if you heard descriptions of him, he was a passionate speaker. And so I imagine it's emotionally and rising emotional content of it. Right, the rest only talk. Right, it's a very powerful. The rest only talk. He sees no distinction. The mighty ocean of love has entered into him, and he sees not man in man, but beholds his beloved everywhere. Right, that's a great sign. He says, the brotherhood of man, when you don't see man in man, right? To say, oh, all men are equal, all humans, all people are equal. That's Sri Ramakrishna. We would say, how are people equal? Right, he says 1,000 people go to hear Keshav Sen speak, and if you were to give a speak, nobody would come to listen to you. Right, one person one person is scared to even speak out loud in public. Another person can fight 10 people. By strength, by intelligence, by fame, by Jadu Malik is a billionaire. Right, he's in the shadow of Janu Malik's house, right? Ramakrishna's room is 200 yards from the richest man in Calcutta, the Bill Gates of Calcutta, right? Literally, he's the Bill Gates of Calcutta at that time, right? Right, it's like, and his room, and then there's also like Lata Maharaj, who's a shepherd boy, has no money. He's basically a slave labor from one of his devotees that Thakur allowed to serve him. Right, right. It's like, are they the same by education, by wealth, by intelligence, by it's like that? To see man in man, that's to see all men equally. That's good, but how do you see men equally? How do you see people equally? When you see God in them, right? And how do you see God? When you see God, you can't see God in people until you see God, right? That's Swamiji's point. Once you realize God, then you see everything equally, right? In the Gita it says if one sees with equal vision, right? And then it gives the ancient world's version of Bill Gates and Swami Bhajanananda, two extremes in wealth, right? Right. He says that the gentle and learned Brahmana, a real Brahmin, right? And that's like a really holy and sattvic and pure by social and religious standards, and a gentle learned Brahmana, a cow. Cow is the holiest of animals, right? Even the urine of a cow is purifying. That's how pure animals are, right? Not even the gentle Brahmana's urine is purifying. A cow's urine is purifying. They're purer than gentle and learned Brahman, right? An elephant, big, strong, powerful creature, right? And then it says a dog. We love dogs, right? But in ancient dogs are considered dirty. So the opposite of a cow. And the opposite of the gentle learned Brahmana is not like a Sudra or not like a... actually the word translates as dog eater. Right, it's like the worst possible at that time. Now you go into the grocery store. Who knows what worse things than dogs are being served. But like I said, this is the ancient world version, right, of the stratifying between holy and unholy, pure and impure, and powerful and weak. Right. If one sees with equal vision, then one is sama darshana pandita. Right, a learned person, a pandit. We use this word pandit all the time. People call me panditji. right? It's like, can I see your dog? I want to see if I can see you both equally or not. A pundit, no, I don't have the qualification. A pundit, a learned person, right, is one who sees equally these different categories. Sama, Darshana, Pandita, one who sees the same. But they're not equal. The examples are shown because they're not equal, right? So what's equal? Right, the one behind everything, the heart of everything, the one manifesting all, and that's equal. When you see God, then you see everything equally. Until then, it's a political. It may be a legitimate a call of social justice and adjustment of society and enactment of laws for equality and as society to form a more perfect union. We keep adjusting and changing. Right, but that's not the same thing as seeing real equally. Seeing real equally only comes with realization of God. Realization only God when you have such anuraga that vairagya is natural. This is the Parabhakti Swamiji is saying. Through every face shines to him his Hari. I read this one. He sees no distinction. The mighty ocean of love has entered into him, and he sees not man in man, or dog and dog, or cat and cat, or elephant and elephant, but beholds his beloved everywhere. He sees only the one. Through every face shines to him his Hari. The light in the sun or the moon are all his manifestations. And you see that's Krishna's also at an emotional crescendo in the Gita. Right? He's describing as his self-revelation, or either it's Krishna describing or it's Arjuna's simultaneous realization. Krishna's revelation and Arjuna's realization are the same act, seen from two sides, right? He says that amongst luminary objects, I am the moon. Among lights, I am the sun. I am the taste in water. Among purifying agents, I am the wind. I am the light. It's like every glory and every beautiful, powerful, sublime, overwhelming thing, right? I'm that, or you see me in that, right? This is a glimpse Krishna is giving in the Gita. Through every face shines to him his Hari. The light in the moon or the light in the sun or the moon are his manifestation. Wherever there is beauty or sublimity, to him it is all his. Such bhaktas are still living. The world is never without them. Let us hope. Other places he says that thank God there's such souls, right, in this world of too much worldliness. There are such souls who see it this way. Though bitten by a serpent, they only say that a messenger has come to them from their beloved. Because they don't see a serpent, they see only their beloved. Such men alone have the right to talk of universal brotherhood. That's the language of Swamiji's time of equality, right? The seeing equally like this. They feel no resentment. Their minds never react in the form of hatred or jealousy. The external, the sensuous, has vanished for them forever. How can they be angry when through their love they are always able to see the reality behind the scenes? I like this, the reality behind the scenes. We see the scenes. And you can see Sri Ramakrishna, other places he says, in some simple language, he's describing the highest thing. He says, I see that it as if everyone is like a wax garden, right? That everything like everything is made of wax, right? That like wax fruit. He used the example of a wax fruit, right? So I'm made of wax. This microphone is made of wax. Ambikana is made of wax. The camera is made of wax. It's like when you see the one, you see the one everywhere. Shankaracharya uses a similar example. He says that when you know, like it says in the Brahma Sutra, if you know one thing, you know all things, right? So that's at a logical level, that's a stupid statement. Sorry, I'm criticizing, but I'm not. I'm temporarily criticizing for emphasis. Please forgive me, Veda Vyas, right? To say that to know one thing is to know everything, right? So they say, in other words, to know, and the example Shankaracharya and other acharyas given, to know one lump of earth, you know all earth. Or to know one ring, gold ring, you know all jewelry. But obviously, to know one ring, you don't know all jewelry, right? So my own ring, I barely know. If I really know, it doesn't mean I know anything about your jewelry. But what does it mean? To know gold, and also to know gold doesn't mean I know all jewelry. I may know nothing about jewelry, right? But if I know gold, I know gold, right? And so a goldsmith, Sri Ramakrishna says that a goldsmith sees gold everywhere. I look, oh, look at a very nice ring, and you have a bracelet and a necklace and like this, right? But a goldsmith, he's trained to see gold, and he immediately sees gold, 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 right? The shape is secondary. Behind the shape, he sees the substance, gold, right? Or once you know earth, you see all earthen things as earth. It's not that you don't see the things. Maybe you see the thing, maybe you know the thing, but they're secondary. So this given a hint of the view, Swamiji is describing the view of the Parabhakta, the illumined devotee, the highest devotee. If you see only God, if you see God, you see God, right? So if you see only God, you see only God. So do you see the world? Well, perhaps described from a Veda perspective, maybe the world disappears and you see only God, right? Or in dualist perspective, you see the world and you see only God. Either you don't see the world and you see only God, or you see the world and you see only God. So that's another way of saying you don't see the world, you see only God, right? That's the thing. And once you know once you know what to look for, once you've experienced the one you're looking for, then you see him everywhere. You see her everywhere, hiding everywhere, right? In the Bhagavatam, we go back to this a lot because I think it's like the perfect devotional and Vedantic example. In the opening page of the Bhagavatam, it says when Lord Narayan is lying in the cosmic ocean, and from his navel comes a lotus, and on that lotus is Lord Brahma, and Brahma looks out and sees, doesn't see anything. He says, "Where?" He says, "Oh, I have to find the source. I'm on a flower. I have to find the source of this flower. Let me look for the source of the flower." And he looks down looking for the bija. The word is bija. He looks for the bija of the flower, the lotus on which he stands. He finds himself. So, in our Brahma's world is this world, right? The lotus is this world. One way of thinking of it, not overly interpreting, but this is one way, right? Where is the seed that made this world, right? So people say, where's God in this world, right? The thing is, if God is the source of this world, where's God? We see the world, we don't see God. So he's looking at the lotus. Where is the seed? And so he goes down and doesn't find the seed. Of course, in some sort, he goes down and finds Vishnu. Vishnu is the seed, right? But where's the seed of the lotus, right? In this verse in the Bhagavatam, right, it says that the seed has become the lotus, right? That's the thing, is that a seed disappears. Where do you find the seed of a plant? In the plant, right? But if you see the plant and you're not looking for the seed, you only see a plant and you don't find this. You don't see, there is no source. Or if there is a source, it's hidden, right? And we have, what do? We go back, what all the scriptures say, and my mom told me, and the priest says, right? We have faith that the source of everything is God, and everything has its source in God. He is the Alpha and the Omega, the source of everything, like this, right? But when you actually see God, then when you look at the world, when you actually find the seed in the world, then the world, in a certain sense, the world's there, in another sense, the world disappears. You see the seed. You see the world. Oh, it's become. So Sri Ramakrishna, another beautiful thing. He says in the beginning stage of the spiritual life, one should think. I don't know if it's descriptive or prescriptive, right? One thinks this world is unreal and God alone is real. Now these are two absurd statements, right? The thing we experience is unreal, and the thing we have no experience of, that's reality. That's our starting point, right? It's a ridiculous thing, right? But this is this is the beginning of religion, right? That what we see is not the reality, and the reality is not yet seen, right? And some say it's not seeable, right? That's an unfortunate. We actually say it's seeable, right? So, but then Sri Ramakrishna, in the beginning stage, one thinks the world is unreal, right? And God alone is the reality, the exact opposite of our experience, right? But because of this, we're searching for the reality behind the unreality. We're searching for the seed in the plant. We're searching for the source. But at the end, he says, once one realizes, oh, God has become all this, right? The world that we see, that we think is not God because it isn't God, right? Right. The people we think are equal that aren't equal, oh, they are equal. The one is manifesting all of them, right? And so he gives examples that one realizes when you're at the bottom of the steps of a staircase to go to the roof. The Indian roofs are different than our roofs. You don't fall off of them as easy as ours. The people live on the roofs, right? And usually the roof is made of, what's the roof made of? Usually brick and lime dust and brick dust. And the steps that go down to it are also made of brick, Many Indians here know, and people who've been in India know, right? And so if you're at the base of the brick of the steps and said, "Oh, I'm on the roof," right? That's foolishness. You're not on the roof, right? And you're saying, "Oh no, this is a roof. It's all God. We're all equal, right? I'm beyond." It's like you're saying true things, but they're not your experience yet. You have no idea what you're talking about, right? Maybe somebody told you it's like this is a. You don't know, but you see, okay, you have to think. What do you think? The classic thing is neti neti, right? You think, well, what about this step? This is a roof. Well, what's the quality of the roof? A roof is big and broad, and it has vistas, and you can see beyond. There's nothing above it. These things are describing some logical things about the roof. It's big, right? It's there's nothing above it, and you can see unlimited in all directions from it. Let's use that as our standard, right? The base of the brick, the first step is not that. So that doesn't satisfy any of these requirements. So this is not the roof. Next step, this is not the roof. Next step, this is not the roof. Next step, this is not the roof. And when you get to the roof, when you realize, oh, right, this satisfies, then you realize the roof is made of exactly the same things as the steps, right? Bricks, what Thakur says, brick dust, and lime, I think, cement, whatever, however we build bricks, I don't know. So once getting to the roof, then you can say, oh, it's all the same, right? At the base, you're saying that's something real, but you have no experience. And if you say the thing, and somebody stands at the base of somebody on the roof, right, looking down at somebody at the base, saying, oh, no, come on up to the roof. No, this is the roof. It's actually embarrassing. Right? Those people they look quite silly. They're like, no, okay, yes, come, right? You come up here and then go back down. Then you can see, right? So the Swamiji's point. Once you have that highest experience, right? Once you've attained the roof, then one sees everything is the same, right? Then one sees the one in everything. Until then, we have a belief and a view and an intuition, and we know it must be true, and it's better to think it's true than not true. That there's one behind everything, there's a soul behind everything. The one we're looking for is in everyone's heart. These are better than the one I'm looking for is this place, and all you guys go to hell. It's way better than that. But it's still not our experience. That's usually where people go. I'm looking for God, and all you go to hell, right? But it should be. It's healthy. When Swami Shankarananda, one tantric sannyasi, he says actually, this kind of tantric, Vedantic, mixed view of how the one becomes everything, it's helpful because it's true. It's a real view of reality. Our ultimate goal, the thing we're looking for, we know it from the beginning, right? We know that there's one behind everything. So we don't have to, we shouldn't get surprised, right? Right now we're looking for the one behind everything. So until we find that, if our philosophy happens to be true, it's good, because most philosophy starts is the world is not. We're in the world of duality. We're all competing. We're suffering, and it's maybe with that view, maybe it's hard to find the one behind everything, right? So it's good to know, even at the beginning stages, there's one behind everything. There's only God ultimately, right? But we shouldn't be deluded into thinking because we know that, or we think that, or been told that, and it may actually be true. And the reason we feel it's true because it echoes the truth, right? Until we have that experience, we what Swamiji says, all others only talk, and big talkers. Many places, they're big talkers, talking, causing difficulty. Huh?
Frothy talk.
Some frothy, yeah, that's another great line of Swami Vivekananda. Frothy talk. That's a very nice, very high sounding talk, right? And sometimes frothy talk is good. We talk for a lot. Even this is a bit of a frothy talk. We're talking all high things, right? Right. But we're trying to encourage each other to go to find. And so, by searching for, and Bhakti Yoga, this chapter starts, Bhakti Yoga is an attempt, a training to discipline the mind, to know what to direct all of our desires, our ambitions, towards God in such a way that will lead to spiritual blessedness. That's the definition of bhakti. I read that because that's his ultimate point here. Bhakti Yoga is a science of a higher love. It shows us how to direct it. It shows us how to control it, how to manage it, how to use it, how to give it a new aim, as it were, and from it obtain the highest, most glorious result. That is, how to make it lead us to spiritual blessedness. Bhakti, the yoga does not say give up, it only says love the highest. And everything alone naturally falls away from him, whose object of love is the highest. So that's the ultimate. The purpose of all this is not just frothy talk, that'd be a great name for a podcast. Frothy Talk with Swami Bhajanananda. I have to learn some marketing skills for this. The reason we're doing this is a training. We're training ourselves. Swamiji is guiding us through inspiring us in our sadhana to direct, to make God the center, to make God the focus of our aspiration. And when we get anurag, when we get that taste, we get that attraction, and everything falls away, then we begin. Then Swamiji says at that point you're at the doorway of Pada Bhakti, right? And Pada Bhakti, I'll give you a secret in Swamiji's lexicon. Swami Shivananda also says it's Pada Bhakti and Advaita are the same thing from two different angles, right? So we all would talk about high things. Advaita is especially frothy talk. Frothiest of the talk, right? But the way to get there, he's showing us this is the easy way to get there. Nothing's easy, but this is the way to get there, right? To Para Bhakti, right? The highest devotion. Thank you for your kind attention. We actually did very good. We finished before RT time. Any questions or comments or? Flowers. Anything? Good. No more frothy talk. That's my new favorite thing. Jai Thakur, Jai Ma, Swamiji Maharaji ki Jai, Jai Bhagavan Sri Ramakrishna Dev ki Jai. Jai Ma, Jai Ma, Jai Ma. Hari Om Tat Sat. Our pranams to all those watching online.